Good morning, beautiful people. This is Aisha with Life, Love, and Lessons with Aisha. I am in the beautiful Montego Bay, Jamaica, man, at the beautiful Hyatt Zilara. I was actually here doing a wedding because I'm an event planner as well as a therapist. And so I had the honor of being able to come out to Jamaica to do a destination wedding for a beautiful bride and groom that are actually a great example of love, a great example of black love. And so, on that vein of love, I want to talk about love. Let's talk about love. I know in the beginning of the sessions together, that's what I focused on, and then it just kind of morphed into something different. But love is a part of life, and it's important. It's probably the only free thing in this world that you can give freely and wholeheartedly, and can make somebody else just feel better and feel good, appreciated, to feel wanted. And so, I'm speaking of appreciation, I just want to say that for those of you who have been on this journey with me thus far, I love you and I appreciate you. I thank you. Um, I know, sometimes I'm a little bit all over the place, but that's how life is. It's like there's no linear path in this life. Life has zigs and zags and turns and peaks and valleys, and so things don't always go 100% how we think they should go, but they definitely go the way that they should. Um, Thinking about love, and because in the beginning, and I'm still in the dating phase. um I said I was with my children's father for a very long time, so, and basically we grew up together. So I am now experiencing dating as a grown woman, very grown, as a grown woman, and it's been very eye-opening. I think that what I see now is just very different from what I was used to. I mean, when I was first dating and in the dating world, you would walk down the street and people would think you were attractive and they would try to talk to you, and either you would go for it or you wouldn't. Nowadays it's like this generation is a little bit more disconnected, even though we're connected to so many different things, be it social media and devices and all that stuff. But there's a real detachment that's going on, and it makes it a little bit difficult, and to me just plain weird sometimes, the way that this world is, as far as like social media and even just being able to be in contact with other people. I'm not used to it. I'm used to, picking up a telephone and being on the phone with somebody. Whoa, what was that? And things of that nature. We are in Jamaica, so I don't know. Um, but, and I think that leads to what I really wanted to talk about today. And here goes, I'm sorry, the being all over the place, but just the sense of detachment that I think is happening in our world, in our, in the generation, but not, I would have said in the generation that's maybe the generation after me, the younger generation, like the millennials, if you will. But, I think that this detachment is something that's going on across the board with um, a lot of different people. I mean, people are just very into devices and things of that nature. And, it's funny because, like, sometimes I even see couples, I'll see a couple like on a train or something, or even standing on a bus stop or something like that. And it's almost like they're detached from one another. They're standing next to each other, but one is in one phone, one is on the other phone. Maybe somebody has on headphones. It's like, how are you in a relationship and you both are standing in the same spot with headphones on? You got your own things going on. You're on your own little worlds, but you're together. So there's like a physical divide that's going on. And to me, that physical divide is what's becoming an issue. And not only that, it's becoming an emotional divide. I feel like a lot of us are in this world and we are detached. And, whether it's we're detached from our feelings, our emotions, detached from other people, detached from ourselves, because that's something that's real, you know. Um, but there's a lot of detachment that I think is going on, and it's not for our good. It really isn't. I think that, you know, it's we have to get to know ourselves and be detached in some aspects, but the detachment that I'm talking about is a little bit more bothersome, a little bit more worrisome, if you will. I think we need to get reconnected with one another. You know, to me, that was like thinking about even, you know, dating. That was like the fun part, you know, like being able to go somewhere and, you know, you see somebody that you like and you're vibing and then, you know, you get those little butterflies and like, oh, they're going to come over here. They're going to talk to me. They're going to say hi. Oh, he's looking at me. Oh, you know, it's like those kind of things don't really happen. And then, you know, then you miss out on certain things like the social nuances that go on, you know, people kind of checking each other out or making eyes with each other. Now it's just like, you know, somebody just looks you up and sends you a DM on your Instagram, which is what's been happening to me lately, since I posted my pictures on Instagram. It's just kind of funny to me because it still makes you very uncomfortable. You know, I'm very, very old school with a lot of things that I do, and even with some of my thinking. And so this whole, you know, somebody's sliding in the DMs is very different. Um, and even that is like, you know, I guess it's more of a detached kind of way. So at least if, you know, you sign in somebody's DM and they don't respond to you, you don't really have as much anger in your face as if you walk up to somebody and speak to them and they don't want to talk to you. So I guess it's, you know, it's a another way of kind of being protective, like a protective reaching, if that makes any sense. um but yeah, you know, so, and I started out really, I wanted to really get into more about the conversation that we had last time about mental health. And I think that, you know, even this whole thing with the detachment, we can even talk about mental health and how people are so detached and then attaching to things that are not to their benefit, like drugs and alcohol and sex. You know, I see a lot of people, and I'm guilty of this myself. You know, I was, you know, probably, you know what, just let's just put it out there. I would have said that I did have low self-esteem. I think you know, a lot of people have low self-esteem, and this is not something that affects just women. It affects women and men. Um, but I think that, you know, there's a building that has to happen. It has to start within yourself, and, you know, it's something that it has to be worked on if you don't quite have it. You know, sometimes we take dings to our self-esteem or insults to our self-esteem, and it becomes damaged, and then the way that we see ourselves becomes damaged, and then of course the way we see the world and others becomes damaged because you can't, you know, it's like looking through broken glasses. It's like you're gonna see things shattered, and that's just how it kind of goes. So, you know, I think it is important that we work on our self esteem, that we're aware of our self esteem, aware of how we feel about ourselves, and how that shapes the decisions that we make and the behaviors that we make. Because you know, I quite pointedly remember being very attention hungry, like almost attention starved. And, you know, of course, eventually that attention started to come from men. And I took it, like I was like, I want this. I like it because I was attention starved. But that came from somewhere. And I think that, you know, we have to be in tune with understanding that these our behaviors are molded by our thoughts, and then understanding, so where are these thoughts coming from, what happened, you know, whether it's something that may have happened in your childhood, or, you know, something that may have happened, you know, or a generational thing that this is like a, you know, something that maybe happens or reoccurs in your family, or, you know, but almost all our behaviors start from a thought, from a cognitive thought, and then they shape how we behave. So we have to be aware of that as well, and understand that, you know, behaviors can be changed. They definitely can be changed, but the first step in changing behavior is identifying what the behavior is. And then you have to make conscious efforts in order to change your behaviors. Um, and, you know, I love Iyanla Van Zandt because she has this phrase where she says, "You have to do your work." And it's so true. And I think I spoke about this before. We all have work to do in this life, whether it's, learning how to be a better communicator, or being a better, doing more self love, or being more selfish, as I spoke about before, being able to say no to people, being able to, speak your truth, or being able to really ask for what it is that you want in this life, you know. But we all have work that we need to do. I think that it's important that we understand what work it is that we need to do, and then we actually do the work. You have to put in work. I mean, nothing happens overnight. It's like you weren't developed overnight. The attitudes that we have don't come overnight. Most of them are shaped from childhood or adolescence. So it's like, even though, we have these things, they're not sometimes easy to get rid of, but it's a work, and we all are works in progress. I know that I still continue to be a work in progress. There's things that I need to continue to work on. um, I think one of them is, as I spoke about before, just learning how to just be a little bit more selfish and really saying no and sticking to my guns and saying no. I've gotten better with it. I've definitely gotten better. um, but there's some times when I'm like, I'm just kind of saying yes just to appease, and it's like, no, that's not going to be helpful to you. So I say, we have to figure out what it is that is our work, and get it done. I was looking on Instagram, and I saw a post. I think it was with a popular radio station, and they were interviewing a rapper, and the interview was about mental health. And I had written because I normally don't comment on people's posts and stuff, but I was like, I thought it was a very poignant interview, and it was nice to see a young person talking about mental health and how he actually helps his friends, when they're having issues, like giving them the opportunity to vent and to talk in the process. And I was like, wow, that's a really beautiful thing to come from a young person, to understand that is so important, that a lot of people don't have that support. And so I wrote a comment basically saying, kudos to you guys for, addressing this, especially in the hip hop community. So I don't think we don't talk about mental health as much in the hip hop community. But it's there's people in the hip hop community, so it's something that's important. I said to you, mental health is baseline. Mental health is health. That is a part of your health, because if your mental health is not straight, it can affect your physical health, your spiritual health, just everything. So mental health is really, really important. And so I was thinking, wow, like this kid, he really has a good idea. Like, he really, you know, really smart guy. And then as I'm kind of scrolling through some of the posts, and I start seeing rest in peace. And I'm like, wait a minute, what in the world happened? And apparently the young man um, died in the airport. He had a seizure, and right now they're suspecting that it was from drug abuse. And apparently his mom is speaking out, saying that he had a prescription drug abuse issue as a young person. And it broke my heart. It really did. Life is fleeting, life is precious. And what scares me is this detachment that I see that's going on, where it just seems as though people are just so detached. It's almost like the generation of zombies. People walking around, and they're just not well, and they're detached, and it's like they're just kind of moving in their own bubbles of life, and rarely having any, like, collisions with other people. And to me, it's just really, really sad. It's very disheartening. It's very scary. I think that, the scary part is that with a lot of people I see, I feel like, because I'm gonna say, like, there's a lot of times when I'm like on a public bus, and I'm listening to the youth speak, and some of the things that I hear, mortified. Like, what in the I know you have a mama, and you talking about that girl like that? Like, that is crazy. You have a daddy, and you in these streets? Really, yo? Like, this is what's really happening? But to me, the reckless abandon that I see and that I hear tells me that there's two things that are going on. My sense is that they feel like they're not even seen. So what difference does it make what you say, what you do? Because nobody's paying attention to you. That's the sense that I get from a lot of the younger generation, that I see that are just kind of, you know, doing whatever, saying whatever out in this world, just just living and doing whatever. Um, but that says to me that not only do they feel like they're not seen, but they also feel like they're not heard. And I know for, for myself, that might be maybe one of the most frustrating things that I encounter when I feel like somebody is not hearing me. Um, and it's genuinely sad. It really is. And I think it's molding and it's affecting the way that not only are they moving in the world, but then it's also affecting relationships. Um, and then we get back to that whole detachment thing where people just seem to be very detached, even within your own household. Like, you're in the house with your family. One person is on the internet, another person is on the computer, another person is, you know, watching a movie. Like, people are just very disconnected, even within families. And I think we need to get back to being connected with ourselves first and being connected with other people. Because the bottom line is that no man is an island, even though I'm on this beautiful island here. But there's no man that is an island. And we all need people. We all need relationships. We all need bonds. It's important. Sometimes those are the things that can help us to get through. Those are the things that help us to get through life. Otherwise, what is the point of life? If we're not able to bond with other people, to communicate with people, what are we doing? Like, what are we here for? We're just robots just going back and forth to work and that's it? Like, no, this life is about having, pleasure and sharing things and sharing relationships and experiences with one another. And I think that, you know, this detachment to me is just very, very telling. And I'm worried because if this is the way that we're going to continue to progress, we are going to be like the generation of robots. Um, and it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be pretty. And then I think, the other thing that happens when you have a sense of detachment or even a sense of nobody's watching or looking, a lot of people just doing things and they're just not even held accountable for it, or they're doing things and they just reckless abandon. And I think that's when you come into people who are just walking up to people and could slash somebody in the face and go home and sleep well at night because they're just detached. You don't even see another person as a human being. So of course you don't treat them as a human being because probably you don't see yourself as a human being, or you don't have any compassion for yourself, or somebody didn't have compassion for you. So now you don't have compassion for somebody else. But it's a vicious cycle that we have the opportunity to change. We have the opportunity to address it. We have the opportunity to expose it. So I say let's continue to, work on ourselves, work on these things. I want us to have a challenge of not being as detached, really getting back. I mean, even people being detached from their children. Like I sometimes see people, and I think that's where it really begins in childhood. I see people. There's always, when you're with your children, opportunities to have conversations with your children about anything. You can be sitting on a bus looking out the window. Oh, did you see that bird? Hey, look at that butterfly. Let's play a game. Let's look for all the white cars and do a game, I Spy or something like that. I think that even, and life is busy. And I understand that. I'm guilty of this too, because there's sometimes when I just need quiet. I shut down and I just have to just kind of get myself back together. However, when there are opportunities for us to be in relation with somebody, relation with our children, relation with our partner, relation with our family, even relation with coworkers, or even relationship with strangers. We spoke about this before about just smiling and saying a kind word to people, giving compliments. You know, all of those things are free, and we should be freely able to give them. And if we're not, that's something that we need to work on. You know, this life is just very short. And sometimes one word of encouragement, one word of reassurance can make a difference. I don't know what happened in this young man's life, but what I do know is that there are a lot of people, and it's almost like a form of suicide. Self medicating through, I said drugs, alcohol, and sex. And that comes from somewhere. It comes from a place of hurt a lot of times. It comes from a place of uncertainty. It comes from a place of negativity. Um, and the bottom line is when you're doing things like self-medicating, doing drugs or alcohol or sex, a lot of times people are trying to diminish the problems that are happening in their life and in their world. But the bottom line is, no matter how much alcohol you drink, when that bottle is gone, whatever problem you were trying to drink away is still going to remain there.